you're bettering people's lives with Bitcoin. You can see that that's just a mining example. It's happening in so many different facets with Bitcoin. We grew it to running the UK's first major Bitcoin conference back in 2022 now, and I've been running this ever since. This group of people, like 600 people in this room, when the price is not about number go up, it's about this is a technology, this is transforming how we live. That's all we talked about. Like, price was never really mentioned. Bitcoin conferences should have an outcome, a goal in mind of bringing in as many people from the outside to learn about Bitcoin as possible. It's always with how do we get outside of the Bitcoin echo chamber, and how do we bring more individuals and businesses in and without scaring them? That's the big thing. It blew his mind that value can be sent that fast from one side of the world to the other. And as you said, like, if you tried to do that with fiat, it would take days. Things are full steam ahead in the land of Bitcoin.
Absolutely. So much things are happening. Before we get started with all the topics, maybe give us some brief overview of who you are and why you are excited about Bitcoin.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm the founder of the Bitcoin Collective. And this was started out as just a small podcast. And then we grew it to running the UK's first major Bitcoin conference back in 2022 now. And I've been running this ever since. And yeah, why am I excited about Bitcoin? I think because I've been in and around it for a few years now. I wouldn't say I've been in it for that long a period, but I've really dived down the rabbit hole. And when you do that, like, you find out that it's just more than money, because it's intertwined into everything that we do, because you've got money makes the world go round. And what really makes me excited about Bitcoin is people using it as a tool, essentially, to better either their lives or other people's lives, which is, yeah, I've got my own podcast, and which is why I love speaking to people and finding out what they are doing with Bitcoin.
Interesting. It's also, how was it for you once you discovered Bitcoin? How has this kind of changed your perspective on money?
Yeah, massively. It's forced me to learn about money in general. I often think, and I think a lot of people within Bitcoin think, that if they hadn't found Bitcoin, where would their lives be? And like, some people are saying I would be a gold bug and looking for the hardest form of money. But in reality, for me, I wouldn't be, because it didn't wake me up to the problem that we had. And Bitcoin actually woke me up to, okay, there's a real problem with the money that we've got today. And yeah, it's totally changed my outlook on life. And it's now my career as well, which is, I'm fully all in on Bitcoin when it comes to life and everything. And it's trying to find that balance as well.
It's funny when you think about gold, because I was aware of gold before Bitcoin, but I always dismissed it as an investment. I was like, why would anyone buy gold? It always struck me of like, why is gold the most valuable asset on earth? I never quite got it. And I was really into stocks. Without Bitcoin, I would be a stock pro. I would probably have a podcast around stocks and which stocks to buy and what kind of stocks to do and things like that. And I think gold does not have the same power in the digital age as Bitcoin has to waking people up. Gold is kind of like gold has an amazing history, but it's kind of the end of that history now. And gold bugs don't want to see that, but every technology has at some point an end. And gold had a very long running for being the most sound money, but it just isn't anymore. And now it also doesn't have the huge power that it once had.
Yeah, and I think everything changed uh, as we moved into this digital era as well. It's finding scarcity in this digital era, and gold was good, and it has been good. It's arguably still good, but we've now got a better store of value, a better money, medium of exchange, and unit of account as well, all three. So yeah, gold just wouldn't work in the digital era. Like, we've tried it with the gold standard, but you've seen what happens there. Human greed comes in, and we default and go into the fiat standard.
It's absolutely not possible anymore. You said for you Bitcoin is more than money. What do you mean by that?
I see Bitcoin as a tool, essentially, of people need to use Bitcoin to then better each other's lives. And the prime example that I use, I love the company Gridless. I don't know if you are aware of them. Run
What
by
are they?
Eric.
What are they doing?
So they're a Bitcoin mining company in Africa, and they're essentially going to locations where there's stranded energy and using that stranded energy to then, one, mine Bitcoin, but two, also bring electricity to communities. And that's the bit that I love, is you are bettering people's lives with Bitcoin. And you can see that that's just a mining example. It's happening in so many different facets with Bitcoin, because it touches so many different points of our lives, that it's actually the outcome of Bitcoin that I really like, and seeing how it influences humans and people and makes us more hopeful as well. I think that's something that I've seen in myself, is Bitcoin actually gives you that hope of, I know lots of people say that and it's overused, but I genuinely actually feel that it does make me really optimistic around the future. Whereas when I'm having conversations with some friends, let's say, there's a lot of pessimism around the future. And I'm just hurtling in saying the future is going to be great, which is the camp that I would much prefer to be in.
It's the optimism, and I think you can see that really good on Bitcoin conferences. I mean, you probably know it way better than me. You have run a Bitcoin conference. Bitcoiners are super, super optimistic. Like, if you are on a Bitcoin conference, there is it's such a happy, good vibes collective of people. It's very hard to come by that many people that are that grateful, that happy in any other situation. And I think that speaks volume, because if you look at gold bugs and if you look at other people, they're really against something. They're like against the system, and we are also against the system. But we're focusing our energy on building something rather than tearing something else down. So when we have now Bitcoin and we are focusing on building something, on the hope, on the future promise that we are building in our ecosystem, we are actually very happy about the future, versus just saying like, oh, the fiat system is so bad. And we are saying that too, but we are focusing on the good side, what comes with Bitcoin, and not like, oh, like it's so bad and like we don't want that. It's a whole nother game that we are playing. And I'm rather in the team of, let's build the biggest tower, tower in town, versus let's tear all the other towers down. So our tower is the biggest one. So I love that. It's a good point that you brought up.
Yeah, you want people to come to your tower, and like people to actually want to be there rather than just, tearing down others. I think that's really important that you said that about conferences as well. It's like, when you were saying that, whenever I say to friends that aren't in Bitcoin, and anyone that isn't in Bitcoin, that I'm going to a conference, it's always oh, are you? That's not good. And it's like, because they're used to like boring corporate conferences. And I'm like, no. These conferences are a lot of fun. So you're right. It's just that room filled of optimism. And like the example I could give around this was, we ran our conference in October of 2022. The price of Bitcoin was trading around $16,000 or $17,000, and the room was just electric. Like, people just filled of optimism, hope. And at this point, this is like the bottom of the bear market. Like we just crashed. For perspective, we'd crashed down to $16,000-$17,000 rather than going up to it. And that was such a beautiful thing of having this group of people, like 600 people in this room, when the price is not about number go up. It's about, this is a technology. This is transforming how we live. And that's all we talked about. Like, price was never really mentioned. And that's what I love about these conferences, is they are just getting the builders, the people who care about it in the room. And yeah, they're not boring corporate conferences like many think.
It's more of a Bitcoin celebration in a movement than a conference. I wouldn't even consider it a conference at that point. Like, no matter which one you go, I mean, there's different styles, but if you go to like a Bitcoin Prague, if you go to any of the conferences, they're really a celebration of Bitcoin. It's almost like the Super Bowl of Bitcoin once a year, or whatever sports you follow. There's usually like a one big event, sports match in a year, and Bitcoin Bitcoin conferences and get-togethers have that kind of a feeling of, it's like we are movement and we are celebrating that we have made it another year. It's almost like a birthday celebration.
Yeah, like there's definitely conferences that are like that, and a lot of them are. There's elements of that celebration, but I'm a strong believer that Bitcoin conferences should have an outcome, a goal in mind of bringing in as many people from the outside to learn about Bitcoin as possible, and actually be productive in bringing all these like great minds together. So whenever we run events, it's always with how do we get outside of the Bitcoin echo chamber, and how do we bring more individuals and businesses in, and without scaring them. That's the big thing, because going into a room of extremely optimistic Bitcoiners can be daunting for a lot of people that don't understand Bitcoin yet.
100%. You made, I watched one other podcast of yours a little bit with Lepar. You made this interesting comparison with 80-year cycles and the forthcoming. I was not aware of that at all. What is this even?
Yeah. So there's a book called The Fourth Turning. And I would recommend to anyone listening to read this book. And it talks about different cycles that we go through in time. And from memory, it was a while since I've read it, but that really was the turning point for me. That was the aha moment for me, let's say, with Bitcoin. And it's not a Bitcoin book at all. All it does is it made me zoom out and look over an 80-year span. And it shows you how you go through different cycles within those 80 years. And the fourth turning is essentially the last cycle, which then you reset and go back to the first. But usually at the end of this one, there is an event that makes this happen. That's either very destructive, or, so for example, the last one was World War II. And what I really liked about it was the different characteristics of each generation. So it focuses on each generation and how, like, the time that they've grown up in, if it's a time of peace, if it's a time of prosperity, if it's a time of war, how they all have different characteristics in common. And it's a fantastic book. And now you've said it, I think I might actually go back and read it again. It's got me excited about it again.
How do we know in what cycle we are even? Like how does someone come to that?
It's been tracked for, I can't remember exactly how long, but you can go from the last really destructive time that we had, which was World War II. And then it projects out another 80 years, and it kind of just uses history to see a pattern. Like, it's not saying that this is exactly that, but it's finding the rhyme within history, and is a similar concept to I don't know if you're aware of Ray Dalio, Changing World Order. It's a similar concept to that, but it's not looking really at just like the economic impact of it. It's looking at humans and what are the characteristics of humans throughout this period.
Interesting. I just like that when you explained it a lot.
It's so interesting.
How is the UK kind of Bitcoin landscape that you are currently seeing?
It's changing massively now. It feels like the tides are turning, because the UK has been, when you look on like a governmental regulatory standpoint, it's been very negative towards Bitcoin. And it's been an uphill battle running a Bitcoin company in the UK over the last 3-4 years is been like, I always say, like pushing a boulder up a hill. But now it does feel like almost getting close to the top of the hill. And there's a really good group, like the Bitcoin community in the UK is phenomenal, because you're growing, or you're having to learn about Bitcoin, but you're really like suppressed by what you can and can't do on a regulatory point of view. It's okay, just you're buying Bitcoin, but a lot of people will want exposure to Bitcoin ETFs. Bitcoin companies have really struggled to come to the UK because of regulation as well, which then this hinders adoption, because you don't have these companies screaming and shouting about Bitcoin and doing the education in the space. So the Bitcoin community in the UK is really like coming together, and it has done for the past few years when it comes to an education standpoint. But now we're seeing a lot of businesses kind of understand Bitcoin as well, which is a really interesting aspect that we can get into maybe later in the podcast.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, let's just do it now. So because we're seeing this corporate adoption of Bitcoin, we're very much in that trend at the moment of corporations trying to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible around the world. But now we're seeing a lot of private companies in the UK, so small to medium-sized enterprises, coming to us and saying, how do we do this? Like, should we be doing this? Is this possible for a private company? We've got excess cash on our balance sheet. Can you, like, we're getting asked to talk to board of directors. Can you educate us about what Bitcoin is? Like, is this an option for us? So we're really seeing an uptick in businesses. And I think that's how it should be, is you've got the corporate adoption of Bitcoin, which is happening. But in the UK, the businesses that make up the UK is 99.9% small to medium-sized enterprises. And that makes up 60% of the UK workforce. These are the companies that need Bitcoin. This is like the backbone of the UK. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is over the past like year to 2 years, I've been watching my my entrepreneurial friends, my people that I know that run businesses leave the UK. And there is stats out there of the UK is one of the highest emigration countries when it comes to entrepreneurs. And I've been actually seeing this in real life, witnessing friends moving to wherever it is. Dubai is the hot one to go to. And it's sad to see that people are just getting squeezed out of the UK, which is why I've kind of turned the attention of the Bitcoin Collective to this pool of like businesses in the UK, that we've got the greatest money right here, which is Bitcoin. And we're seeing how it works on corporate balance sheets. But the people that really need it are the small to medium sized companies in the UK. So what I've done is I've pivoted our company to address this problem and really focus our education on that niche of people.
Interesting. I love that. Really cool. I always like to see that people are working on the educational side and kind of trying to get more people to Bitcoin, no matter if it's a group of people, which is called a company, or a group of people in an institution, pension fund, whatever. And this is always, I think, a good way of seeing how we can get more people to Bitcoin and therefore also accelerate this whole trend, because we know it's coming. And now we have individually two choices. Do we want to be part of the revolution actively or passively? And how fast we will get there. And the more people that choose to be actively there, the better it will be long term, I think.
100%. It's just about taking action. And like I hear who was it that said it, that I heard it first? Oh, it's Peter McCormack that I heard say it first. But I'm not sure who coined it. But you just said you can just do things. And that's what I really like, is like people just need to take action. And if you are into Bitcoin and you think you can help with adoption in whatever you're passionate about, like I'm passionate about businesses and getting them in, like entrepreneurs in. And the nice thing is that entrepreneurs are actually the ones that are most likely to get it first. It's like they're the low hanging fruit for Bitcoin because they're already critical thinkers and action takers and builders. And then if you say that there is a problem, you've got a problem, if let's just say an example, they're holding excess cash on their balance sheet long term that they do not need. And you are saying, okay, let's look at the pound. What's happened over the past 5-10 years when it comes to devaluation of that? And if they've just got it sitting there in, say, there's no interest you're getting on that, you're losing that in purchasing power. Sorry, there's a fly. You're losing that in purchasing power. So once you show an entrepreneur, a business owner, a problem, then they will look for a solution. And you can show that solution as Bitcoin. It's very much similar to Joe's video, Joe Bryan, I think you've had on the show. He just tells a story. I'm getting attacked by a fly, I'm sorry. It won't leave me alone. He tells a story through what's the problem, the video what's the problem. And he doesn't really mention Bitcoin. He just makes people realize, oh, there is a problem here. and then leaves it to them to look for a solution. So as long as you can highlight that problem to entrepreneurs, business owners, that will spark something for them to look for a solution to it.
Is that the best way for us to get like more real world Bitcoin adoption in how you see it?
I believe so, because you are going to these business owners who maybe employ X amount of employees, and that then trickles down. If, say, they adopt a Bitcoin strategy, it could be anything. It could be holding Bitcoin on your balance sheet. It could be accepting Bitcoin payments. It could be paying your employees in Bitcoin. There's so many different ways that you can start out with Bitcoin. It's not just you should be holding this on your balance sheet, or you should be accepting it as a form of payment. So once you've done that with an organization, a business, then that trickles down to employees, that trickles down to customers. And it's just, it reaches a lot further than just going to each person individually.
The first time I ever made any money, I got myself from that money a watch. And ever since then, I collect timepieces to remember times where I achieved some milestone. That's why I got the Bitcoin 2025 edition when I went to my first ever American Bitcoin conference. So for me, the Bitcoin watches from Coin Vigilante represents the time that we are living in. For every person that wears a Bitcoin watch, I know they are representing sound money to the outside world. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I know how big of a hurdle it can be to have self-custody, but it's so freaking important to make that first step. We have to make sure it's as easy and simple as possible. And that's exactly what BitBox did. BitBox created the simplest and the easiest hardware wallet to use to get into self-custody. So get yourself a BitBox down from the link in the description. And when you use code Robin, you even get a 5% discount. How do you look at the whole Bitcoin business as it's like now we have so many more businesses that are interested in buying Bitcoin, being involved in Bitcoin, building in Bitcoin. It came out of the blue. 5 years ago, it was not a topic at all when I was kind of getting into the scene. I mean, Seyr also got in the time in the scene. So like it was getting a little bit of a topic, but even though Seyr strategy came in, the Bitcoin treasury, the Bitcoin company kind of narrative really came into effect the last, let's say, 8 to 12 months, maybe 18 months, something like that. So we're really starting to see that whole Bitcoin company, Bitcoin treasury kind of like narrative.
Yeah, and like each cycle with Bitcoin, we've kind of gone through different a narrative for that cycle, essentially. And this one is the adoption of Bitcoin corporations and the beginnings of nation state adoption as well. But for me, it's a big plus. So this is adoption of Bitcoin, and however people want to use it, they should be able to use it. Bitcoin is for everyone. And this highlights like how, or is like a marketing tool essentially for Bitcoin. Let's think of it like that. Is when people see a stock strategy, for example, going up, they will question, why is that happening? Why is strategy the best performing asset or the best performing share in the US over the last 5 years? You need to fact check me on that, but let's just say that. And that then makes people look at why. And then they look at Bitcoin. So it's like another entry point in for people to Bitcoin. And what we're seeing in the UK at the moment is there's a new Bitcoin treasury company called the Smarter Web Company. And that has brought in so many people into understanding a little bit more about Bitcoin, because unfortunately, like, number goes up, that does bring people to it. And that's what brought me to Bitcoin originally. But then you slowly go down understanding what it is. So people that don't know much about Bitcoin are having to then learn about it if they want to buy this company. So I see them as a great entry point, as long as people realize that if they're buying the likes of Smarter Web Company, Strategy, whoever it is, they understand that this is not Bitcoin. Like there's nothing for me that trumps self-custody Bitcoin. But I think from an adoption point of view, a marketing point of view of Bitcoin, I think these are great, and they are going to be the most powerful companies in the world, because they are getting in early.
Is there something like bad adoption for Bitcoin? Like, is there things that if there's like a progress in adoption that it might be bad for Bitcoin? I mean, Satoshi in the early days was kind of cautious when things went too quick with it. Is there like a risk still to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can just speak from my perspective. Like, I see Bitcoin as money. So I really believe in Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. And it should be used as a medium of exchange as well. So we are going through a phase of Bitcoin as a store of value, where you're seeing companies and people just buy Bitcoin and just hold it, and they will never let it go. So I think this is a later stage. We will see Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. That'll come in however many years. But for people to really understand it, then store of value makes way more sense, because speaking in the UK, people don't have a problem paying in the UK. Like, you can go to the shop and have your iPhone and scan your face, and you just pay really quickly, easily. So there's no real problem there. But with the store of value currently, with fiat money in general, let's just say, there's a big problem there. So I think this might be just a stepping stone to then Bitcoin becoming like to its full potential. And I think we need to really concentrate on that as well, and highlight that Bitcoin isn't just this asset. It is money, and you can use it as a form of payment, and a medium of exchange. That for me is a worry, that we go too far down that store of value. Like, you'll see the mempool have like empty blocks. There has been, and that sort of thing, like, is a bit of a worry. But I believe that this is a stepping stone of adoption, and we will get there.
By the way, I love the empty mempool right now. I do transact a lot in Bitcoin. I actually do it on chain right now, and I mean a lot. It's like a few times a month, because I get paid in Bitcoin. I pay in Bitcoin, so I do love to be able to send money to Colombia for 70 cents. Otherwise, the fiat system takes like between 10 to 30 euros for the same amount. Like it was like, I don't know, like let's just say $1,000. The fiat system takes like 10 to $30 from that. The Bitcoin fees is like 70 cents. And Bitcoin, I just need an address. With fiat, I need all the information of the recipient. And it's like, oh gosh, why is it so hard? Like, come on. So even on the payment side, of course, like if you pay your coffee or anything like that works perfectly fine. It's like, of course, it's like just a database entry. But once it gets to be international, oh man, the headache is huge. I don't even like fiat payments anymore. It's like, it's like, how do I do that? And I had an interesting moment today. I was sitting with Daniel White. He was visiting in Vienna, and he told me about how he started his business with Microseed and kind of started accepting fiat and accepting Bitcoin at the booth of the Bitcoin conference. And I was like, I know how to accept Bitcoin, but I actually don't know how to accept fiat physically. Like, do I need an app? Do I need to buy things? Do I accept a credit card and things like that? And he explained it to me how it works. But I know, like, if I start a lemonade stand in Vienna, I could do it right now without looking anything up on my phone with Bitcoin. I know how to do it. I would have no clue how to do it with fiat just because I never looked it up. I know how to accept, like, I can give you my bank account and you send me money. Yeah, like that's pretty easy, of course. But how to do like the physical point of sales thing, I have no clue about. Now I know because I've got it, but like previously I had no clue about how to even start doing that. So it's interesting when you are Bitcoin first, when you're kind of like someone that lives on Bitcoin, you forget the fiat things, and it's really it really frees your mind if you forget all about fiat, and you don't even think about borrowing against your Bitcoin because you just like love Bitcoin, so you use it as money, you buy it, you earn it, you spend it, you don't have to buy or sell it.
And the thing is, like, if you're selling something in the fiat world, then you also have to think about it. They're going to take a 1%, 2% fee on that if you're using something like Stripe or whatever payment point of sale terminal it is. It's quite funny when you're saying that, like international payments as well. Like on my podcast, I had a guy called Tim Bresnan. So he was a international cricketer for England for many years and won the Ashes with them. And he came on, and I was showing him Lightning and Lightning payments. And what we did is I got a friend of mine who lives in El Salvador to just quickly jump on the podcast. And what I did was I sent him Bitcoin to El Salvador, and then he sent it to Tim, all within about 20 seconds. And it blew his mind. The value can be sent that fast from one side of the world to the other. And as you said, like if you tried to do that with fiat, it would take days, and
It's
you
a
would be
nightmare.
charged. Yeah, so much.
It's a total nightmare, fiat. I cannot believe that such a bad store of value and such a bad medium of exchange is still our daily money. Like, how do we accept that? How does someone say like, oh, like, yeah, it's a valid system. Like, it's a good system. It works.
That's the thing of like, people are used to the status quo and they just get in the routine of doing the same thing over and over again. I think that's like what a lot of people have really got stuck in your comfort zone. And that's when I was saying like entrepreneurs and businesses are why we're focusing on them is because they're the people that have come out of the comfort zone and gone against the status quo, usually to start a business. So if you got that mindset, it's a hell of a lot easier to understand Bitcoin.
It's interesting how businesses kind of slept on it, though. The first guy, I mean, smaller and medium-sized businesses that you don't have on a radar probably didn't sleep on it so long. But it's good that retail and had now time, about like 14, 15, 16 years to really accumulate. And now deeper pockets will come in, and the price will shoot up, and people will complain. Why didn't they buy more? Why didn't they buy heavier? Why didn't they do it? And yeah, it's always the case since forever, I guess, in Bitcoin.
Yeah. And you always say that, like, I wish I'd bought more at this point, or a lot of the time I hear like, oh, I've missed the Bitcoin boat because it's at 100,000. But we will we will be having this conversation at 1 million, and then 5 million, and then 10 million, and people just don't realize like what this is. And I think what's really changed over the past like probably 2 years is the credibility of Bitcoin, because humans trust different institutions and organizations, and if they can see that, oh, okay, that business is doing it, or that person is doing, that celebrity that they follow is getting into Bitcoin. A big turning point, if whether you like it or not, is BlackRock coming in with the ETFs in January 2024. Just because that gave the institutional land a signal that, okay, they're getting involved in this, we should probably look into it. And that kind of credibility and putting trust in different organizations goes throughout different people, and it's different for different people as well. Like a good example that I use is so like charities. So Save the Children. They've got Antonia there, who is leading on Bitcoin and Bitcoin, piloting different Bitcoin projects within a large global charity. And then you've also got the likes of like Charity Water as well, a different charity who has been accepting Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin in their trust for years. And like these sorts of stories where people are like, oh, wow, why would they be doing that? That's really, why are they speculating on this really bad for the environment asset? And then it will then start to trigger that spark to actually learning, oh, okay, it's not bad for the environment. And it makes sense for them to use it because Save the Children transfer $65 million. I think it's around that number globally. So if they can do that with Bitcoin, they're going to save, it goes into our last conversation, they're going to save so much money on fees alone, and having to transfer from one fiat to the other, or one currency to the other.
Super interesting when you think about what implications this will have for all fiat institutions that are now so big and influential. Once you get away with that fiat system, oh, like that's a whole new world that we are building there.
It's a whole it's a whole new world and that sounds crazy to a lot of people. I believe that this is a pivotal point in humanity, and this is like really significant what's happening over these 10 years. I know it's going to be a lot longer, but the adoption that we are seeing now is going exponential. And I'm a big fan and friend of Jeff Booth as well. And his book really flicked my mindset. So The Price of Tomorrow. I don't know if you, yeah. the price of tomorrow, actually looking and analyzing, like, are we live in an inflationary world? What would happen if it was deflationary? And that's a really difficult thing to get your head around. But once you get your head around it, well, it's difficult because we are used to the status quo. We are used to this environment. But it's about thinking about what if? What if the money was actually a fixed supply? What would then happen? How would that change society above that? And it's just very interesting to think about what society will and could look like if we had a sound money. And that's what gives me hope, what gives me optimism. It's I'll leave that there.
What are you most excited about in this new world?
I think what I was just saying there of how does it actually change society? Because at the moment we've got a corrupt and manipulated money, which like that evil then permeates through into society. And what happens if we actually have that solid foundation to build on? In my head, I'm very visual. Like I always think about we're currently building a house on a beach, on the sand, and it's just not a solid foundation. What would happen if we were building it on land, on concrete? Like that house is going to last forever. But currently we are building higher and higher on sand.
It's the whole difference of like, if you're running and you're running in sand, you will also get forward, but it's not as fast, not as good, and you probably fall a lot more than if you're running on solid ground, whatever the solid ground is. But like sand is not the best way to run, and we're currently running on sand, on fiat sand. And the thing is, it just gets worse and worse. So like you're starting off with like nice sand, and then the sand gets wet and like kind of smushy, and like you're running, and all of a sudden you're stuck. And at some point, hyperinflation kicks in, which is the equivalent of quicksand, I think it's called in English, where you get just stuck and you just get stuck in and slowly get in there. And you, if you don't get out soon enough, you just, there's just like nothing left of you, because the quicksand earth took you away from, took your life away at that point.
That is such a good analogy. You have to clip that up. I'm so annoyed that you came up with it, not me.
you made. I did not think about it before, so you inspired it.
Team effort, collective. That's what I love.
That's the Bitcoin collective, I guess.
It is indeed.
Really cool. I have one question that I ask each and every one of my guests, and the question is, what can we learn from you besides Bitcoin?
Wow.
Usually Bitcoiners are really stunned by that question. It's like I always have to cut out after that answer some silence. I mean, AI cuts it out for me. So it's really funny, because I go through the whole podcast and usually there's like almost no silence in there that AI cuts out. It's just like in the end when I ask, oh, what can we learn from you besides Bitcoin? Like do you have a life besides Bitcoin? And then they're like,
yeah, this is actually, it's such a good question. And like, it's something that I've been battling with quite a lot. Yeah, like I've recently got a new partner and she's been asking me, but who's Jordan outside of Bitcoin? And like, that's been making me like question, who am I outside of Bitcoin? And such
a life partner or a business partner? I was not sure.
Life partner.
Okay.
Yeah, girlfriend, a new girlfriend, sorry. And yeah, like what I would say is traveling, is a big thing, and like getting out and seeing different cultures is that's what I enjoy doing, and that's what I would encourage anyone else to do. Because I was about to bring it back to Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is different in different cultures. Oh man, this proves the point. I need to get a life.
Yeah.
But
I asked a question very intentionally to each and every one of my guests because, first of all, there's a lot of funny stories coming from that one question. We learn a lot about different things about what the guest is doing, but most importantly, I think Bitcoin will become boring at some point, and I think it is our duty to actually go ahead and develop skills and a life outside of Bitcoin when we are already in a Bitcoin world. Because how exciting will it be? The next 10 years, the most important thing you can do is educate people on Bitcoin. In 50 years, it will be the most boring thing you can do to educate people on Bitcoin. So in the next 10 years, it's okay that Bitcoin is your life. But in 30 years, it's no longer okay that Bitcoin is your life. And that's coming from someone that talks every day about Bitcoin with someone else, talks about Bitcoin even outside of his podcast. What did I do in the morning? I met a Bitcoiner who was in Vienna, Daniel I told about before, to breakfast, and I talked about Bitcoin and about the Bitcoin ecosystem, about Bitcoin companies with him. And then I come home, start my work, talk about Bitcoin all day long, have 3 different podcasts today. Then I go to bed, sleep, and the whole next week I'm at a conference. So like Bitcoin is my life right now. But I think we have to prepare for a Bitcoin world where it's very boring to have Bitcoin as a topic.
I couldn't agree more. Like, so I've just written a statement release of when we're pivoting our company more towards businesses, and the top of this is exactly what you just said. So I'll just read out what I've written. So there was a time when businesses were asking, do we really need a website? Today we laugh at that question because having a website isn't a luxury, it's a basic infrastructure for a business. Now in 2025, a new question is emerging. Do we really need a Bitcoin strategy? Some still laugh at this question, but it will one day become basic infrastructure for businesses and just become boring for many businesses. And I think to your point, I've been thinking about the question you've asked ever since. And for me, it's getting out your comfort zone is the big thing. And I think that really ties into what I was saying about traveling as well and going to different cultures, like taking risk and taking action, which is why I really love like working with people that build stuff and actually want to push the boundaries a little and actually create something new and outside the status quo. That would be my summary of my answer.
I love that. Really, really cool. We have also we have an end routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, a very interesting and thoughtful question. What are 3 things that you're currently grateful for?
Wow.
He asked that question because it is very important for his life, and he told us about the thing that he does it with his girlfriend every night to go over the things. What were you grateful for today? And he truly thinks that not enough people practicing gratefulness, and I love that. I love that message, and man, it's a deep one.
Yeah, no, I love that as well. Like, and it's something I don't do enough, and I'm aware that I don't do enough. And like the first thing I've written down 2. I'm gonna have to think about the third one, but the first 2 that I've written down is like family for me, like family first. Like I'm grateful to have a great family around me that then push me and we push each other and like support, but then also health as well. These are basics, but like I'm grateful to be healthy. And because it's that whole thing of when you're ill, you're just like, oh, I really wish that I was just healthy and I could go to the gym and do this. So I guess that's one that you have to be grateful for. And then I would probably say, this is my Bitcoin one, but I'm grateful to be actually living at this time, this period in time, because it's exciting and there's so much going on with technology, with innovation. We've got Bitcoin, the rise of a new monetary system. I'm very excited to be at this tipping point of Bitcoin.
What a time to be alive.
Exactly.
Really cool, man. Jordan, I enjoyed our podcast a lot. Thank you so much for being on. Before I let you go, where can people find you, ask you questions, and reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. I'm very active on X, so you can find me JYW132. That's my handle. And then I'm also very active on LinkedIn as well, because I'm a big believer of getting outside the echo chamber. And yeah, I post a lot of Bitcoin content on there that's not too in your face. So it really resonates with people and pulls them in. And then, yeah, follow the Bitcoin Collective. So you can find us at bitcoincollective.co. And if you are a business, we're currently UK focused at the moment. If you are a business that looking into building a Bitcoin strategy, then please reach out to us. You can just reach out to me or any of the team or on the website.
Thank you so much, Jordan, for being on the podcast. It was great having you as a guest. Also, thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye.